So welcome to the Sphere IT podcast. We're broadcasting from Insurtech Insights in London on March the 19th, 2024. I've invited Andrew Turner to join me, a bit of an expert in the field of podcasting, but also someone who knows a little bit about data, which is really exciting. Good to have you on the podcast and welcome.
Thanks for the invite, Peter.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself, Andrew.
So I've worked in corporates. I've worked in corporates. I worked in GE and large enterprise software vendors like SAP. I also worked at Tesco. Then I left there and joined the heady days of startup world. So I'm on my third time in Silicon Valley, working with Praxi Data, or Praxi for short. And we're going to be 6 years old this year.
Oh,
so we're kind of like, we're not quite a teenager yet, but and we're basically trying to help people in the data world, and obviously, particularly, the reason why I'm here is insurance companies around getting their arms around all this data. And obviously, there's a lot of data out there that's not being managed properly, and there's a lot of risk and opportunity out there.
Yeah. So what are the main sort of blockers to these insurance companies that you're talking to, getting a decent data strategy and data being utilized effectively? What are the main blockers, do you think, for those companies right now?
I think there's a lot of I think it's getting the priority. I think at the board level, I think with this whole thing that's happened with Gen AI in the last 12 months since, the ChatGPT initiative, what we're seeing is that people actually want to do something and get it sorted out. And obviously, it is unfortunately the garbage in, garbage out scenario. Sure. And it's amplifying that issue right now today. You can't have a successful Gen AI or AI initiative, especially, you probably saw that initiative with Klarna the other week, with the fintech, where they effectively put a chatbot out there, but they actually simulated a reduction in, he's covering 700 heads of customer service calls. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. So if you get it right, there's a great business opportunity there. And I think what it's doing is forcing organizations to get their act together on data. So we see it as foundational. And that's why we're working on things called data classification, data curation, and you've got to automate it, because the amount of data that's out there, there's lots of stats out there, but the stat that we work around is by 2025, there'll be 175 zettabytes of data across the world. And 80% of that is going to be unstructured. And, how do you get your arms around unstructured data? It's very difficult. You've got to use some intelligent technology. And that's what we're working on. That's what we're working with insurers on.
Sure. So Praxi.ai is the product that you're building. So data classification and...
Yeah, so what you do, data classification and curation. So if you think about, you've got raw data in operational systems, it may be in Guidewire, it may be some kind of specialist system. But what do you do? How do you actually get that useful for analytics and analysis for the business? So we've got a very narrow scope, but we're very deep.
Very domain-focused models.
Yeah, so, if you're a P&C insurer, we built pre-trained AI models as a reference model. So rather than starting with a blank piece of paper, you start with our pre-trained model.
Yeah.
And then you can augment that. And then what we do is we provide it's a bit like a Symantec security update. So we provide what's called a metadata update on a regular basis to those insurance companies. And then they can augment it with their local knowledge.
Right.
So obviously, then you've got people who are, people who are actually at the front line, they've got their taxonomies, their hierarchies of how they look at data. They can obviously augment their data with that. So it's effectively, it's tribal knowledge with the models that we provide. You're then going to get to the result a lot quicker.
It sounds very powerful.
Again, it's a trusted data. That's what you need for these AI initiatives. That's what we, and it's funny how, this kind of topic really over the last 5-10 years has been, that's really, dirty, messy, murky data, dark data. It's a real big problem. Now it's a compelling event.
Yeah,
because people at the board level want to actually do something about it.
Sure.
So you've got to get rid. You've got to get that data out there. You maybe have to put that on the. You stack ranked it a bit further down the list. You've got to put it on the top of the list.
Sure. So I can see the problems you're trying to solve. Your typical customer within the insurance market would be a carrier, and you would work with the underwriters primarily, or is it actuarial? Where are the areas that you're sort of
So I think it's about enabling the consumers of data, enabling the data workers. So that's cross-functional in nature. So what we're usually working with is like the CIO, the Chief Data Officer, Chief Data Analytics Officer, Chief Data Officer, and also people like now more recently the Chief AI Officer.
Sure.
So there's this CAIO now role that's come out, which is obviously trying to consolidate all these different functions and actually drive that forward and be, I suppose, the owner at the board level, working for the CEO usually or the CFO. So I think it's quite, what I would call it's kind of like a renaissance. I've been in and out of data. I've been in business roles. Obviously, I'm working for a technology company now in San Francisco, but based in San Francisco. But we're operating worldwide, and we're seeing the same pattern of conversation when I'm talking to a group in, global insurer in Paris, somebody in Saudi Arabia, somebody in San Francisco, somebody in Chicago yesterday. They've all got the same problem they're trying to tackle.
Sure.
And they're trying to work out then who do they play with, because they only have a finite amount of money. Where do they place their bets and who do they, so going through due diligence, because there's a lot of people out there saying they can do it. We've got US patents around how we built our technology. So we've got something we think was quite special.
Yeah, sounds like it. It really does. But how much prep work do these carriers need to do to make this successful, right? Because I've not seen many big carriers execute a very strong data strategy, especially not a modern data strategy. So what are the things that you're doing or seeing that might, or advise upon, that could support that kind of creation? Data strategy?
So one of the things, I was trying to call with a VP chief C-level exec yesterday from a very big US carrier. And what they were talking about is actually because they want to do this crawl, walk, run approach. What they want to do is they want to segregate, a bit like having a data lab, where they could actually not connect to the operational systems, but how do you actually validate it at a smaller scale and create a day in the life, a week in the life of how the operating model would work with and without our capability.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we're doing now is this is kind of becoming more of a pattern about how we would validate it, because you can't go from zero to hero in one step. You've got to do it in that kind of incremental steps. But then also picking off the use cases. So, is it claims data? Is it underwriting data? Is it customer service data? What is the right type of use case? And we're working through a stat ranking those as well.
But is technology that exists in those businesses right now a huge blocker as well? Because
what we do is we do this thing called a discovery audit. So we basically we can install our tech in the cloud, whether it's on AWS or Azure or GCP or whatever. And then basically we can connect to the sources, and we can then do a discovery audit. So we can tell you the health of your estate as it currently is. And then we can identify, okay, where are there some kind of pinch points or inconsistencies within a week.
Sure.
So in terms of that, you don't have to look, into 2025. You do it pretty quickly if you're lining up properly. Usually some of the infrastructure stuff is probably the longer lead time.
Sure.
But now most insurers now have kind of embraced the cloud. So you can kind of say, which flavor are you playing with? Let's put something up there and let's get some data together. And then let's apply some agile thinking to get something done.
Sure.
But I agree with you. There is a bit of a what winning hearts and minds piece.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing was listening to the group CEO QBE just a bit earlier. Was he's trying to it's quite refreshing to hear actually. He's basically trying to get the company to level up on innovation, so not be shy about embracing innovation. And also the second thing, which really comes out of the tech sector, is fail fast. But not be embarrassed about failing. So if you think about that, that's been kind of a bit of a mantra from certain technologies I don't want to mention on this podcast episode. But it is, I think it's something that culturally, because of the risk profiles of the kind of industry we're working in, sometimes people would, if they've got a couple of choices, they maybe go for the less risky route.
Yes.
So I think when you've got group CEOs on stage saying that, I think that builds confidence in organizations to get something after it.
Yeah, I think the most successful organizations that I've seen, particularly in this market, they've all gravitated around data as a problem and looking at it as an opportunity. They're saying, let's build data products. Let's understand our data. Let's analyze our data more effectively. Sometimes the operating model changes. They might be more federated across the domains, or they might be very much centralized in a center of excellence that they're focused on small little benefits, So it's really good to hear that. But look, I really enjoyed the conversation. I think,
thank you.
You bring a lot to the table. Really interested in practicing AI. Talk more about it. But before we go, one plug for your podcast. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, I've got two podcasts. I've been podcasting since 2018. got over 100 episodes published. Should have had more, but it's called the G&T Sessions. It's about growth and technology with gifted and talented people. You've got interviews CEOs, entrepreneurs, authors. I mean, we had a few rock stars actually on my show.
Really? Wow, okay.
And that's my kind of personal, kind of journey kind of podcast.
Sure.
And then literally a couple of weeks ago, we launched the PraxiPod. We've got 5-6 episodes published already, which are basically me interviewing as the host our advisory board. So we've got what I've been impressive advisory board with Praxi. And then, we're interviewing people every week.
Brilliant.
So, the sky's the limit. I love podcasting. It's great to be a guest on your show.
No, it's good. Look, thanks very much, Andrew. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.